What's going on, Crypto Paradise and Tordess people? What is up? It is April 24th, a beautiful Thursday here, and it is a beautiful Thursday for a number of reasons, but most importantly because Bitcoin has been on an absolute terror, pumping $20,000 off the lows around 74, all the way up yesterday, kind of peaking out around 95K. Small pullback here today, but here to discuss the markets, how money flows, and your weekly dose of TA school, for lack of a better word, the Tordess TA institution. I've got Dut and Roche here. Gents, how we doing today? We had a week off last week. Good to have you back.
I'm doing good. Market is back to green now. And as you probably know, that Tordess is looking for TG in May. So it's all looking good, but hopefully, as I mentioned, hopefully that Trump doesn't say anything funny that affects in the coming months. Other than that, it all look good to us. How about you, Roche?
I'm doing good, man. Yeah, I'm happy that our game played out the way it did. I mean, I'm happy we skipped last week.
Well, speaking of, we finished up 2 weeks ago making our predictions for the next week. We got the numbers up here. We each predicted what's the possible low, what's the possible high for the next 7 days. Obviously, last week we were unable to record, but we're back here this week and taking a look at that. We've got some, I don't think it really didn't do anything the last week in terms of movement. So I don't know if any of us really were right. It just kind of stayed in that range. But if we're looking at this week, I think Roche, you're the clear winner. It hit almost to a perfect T. Your 95K mark there.
Yeah. Well, I said 94,250. So
yeah, we're just above that there. Market's looking strong right now. I think a lot of that's coming off. I mean, there's been a ton of really bullish news. MicroStrategy bought another, I think, 250 million in Bitcoin. GameStop announced that they are officially buying. This pump may have been them deploying some of that $4 billion they have set aside to buy Bitcoin. Castor Fitzgerald says they're putting together $3 billion to start buying Bitcoin. There's just been all sorts of bullish news on the Bitcoin and overall crypto front. We've also seen the SEC case get dropped, or excuse me, not dropped, officially won, which is very rare. Normally when the SEC is looking like they're going to lose a case, they'll look to settle out of court or simply drop the case, because if a win goes on the books, it sets a precedent that other people can then use in future cases. So whether you like Richard Hart or not, whether you're a fan of Pulse Chain or not, this was a very, very big precedent set for crypto going forward. And will have impacts on a lot of other projects, the overall market, and in any future cases. So another bullish a catalyst in the markets here. But I think probably the bigger things pumping the markets is a little more confidence in or less confidence in the dollar. People looking for more stable assets. I'm seeing gold rip to new all-time highs, Bitcoin pumping. The dollar, the Dixie has been on a drop, and the reverse correlation between the dollar and Bitcoin seems to still be holding strong, while we're seeing for the first time a split between the stock market. Traditional stock markets have been dumping while Bitcoin is pumping. So a lot of interesting stuff going on in the market today. I don't know what have you guys been following the last 2 weeks? What's got you excited? What's got you concerned? What questions do you think still need to be answered to see this bull run continue?
Yeah, for me, it's I think the correlations between Bitcoin and stock market that has been around for quite some time. But then suddenly last week, we see that there's a day that the stock market crashed, but then Bitcoin rally. That's what really excites me, because people has been talking about Bitcoin as digital gold, and we may see that become true and more true very soon. So that's what excites me. How about you, Roche?
I think BlackRock. I think the inflows yesterday were 563 million. Record day, man.
$500 million a day. We could stand to see a nice summer of $500 million a day coming into the markets. Yeah. That'd be pretty sweet.
It's strange, because I wonder. I don't want to make this prediction, but I'm just going to say this. I wonder if we are not going into the first ever crypto super cycle.
A lot of people think so, and we would need a decoupling of the stock market to crypto probably for that to happen. But outside of that, everything's fallen into place. We have nation states buying. The U.S. is becoming a jurisdiction where crypto can actually thrive. The legal barriers are getting out of the way. You have, at some point, this war, this race between countries for Bitcoin, between U.S. and the EU and China and Russia and everybody else trying to buy up Bitcoin faster. Like it's not an if, but a win. So I definitely could see it being a possibility. I'm like you though. We've heard the super cycle rumors for how many cycles now. Is this the time it finally comes?
But the thing is, you see Russia launching an official exchange with their treasury, which is something big. And another thing that no one's really talking about, and I think I might be one of the first, is it's in my brain, right? It's like, when are crypto companies going to actually start making real products, right? Because we're talking about anything. We can talk about manufacturing, right? But because you got your things like, what is it called, VeChain and all these, but they're more in compliance, right? But what if someone starts something that manufactures pens, right? And they tokenize that. Once this is bound to happen, then you're in a super cycle, because then everyone's going to do it, right?
Yeah.
Because now you can open up a company in, let's say, Vietnam, right? Where manufacturing is really good at the moment, but you can own it from around the world. You own a part of the company. It's much easier, right?
And DeFi, RUA, I think those three categories right there will have the biggest, real world impact, especially when combined with AI. And that's where, we just look at the US, market cap of the US stock market's $90 trillion. We just broke 3 trillion in the entire market cap of crypto globally. So that's 30x from where we are now. Right. And that's not and the U.S. stock market isn't including things like real estate and, of course, all the other nations. So as soon as those doors are opened, whether that's from a tech perspective, a regulatory compliance, with the different jurisdictions around the world, whatever those few, bowling pins we need to knock down yet are in the way. When that does happen, yeah, absolutely, we could see an insane super cycle. Nick Hellman, the hitman, one of my partners here at Crypto Paradise, he's a big believer in the super cycle. He likes to point to what happened with gold when they started the gold ETFs. When they opened up the gold ETFs, gold went on a 10-year bull run. So, this could be the start of something similar with Bitcoin, which would, for all of us, I think we'd be pretty happy with that.
And it didn't happen overnight. Like with gold ETF, you were right that it happened over the 10-year period. And exactly what the same happened with Bitcoin as well. We have ETF last year. It doesn't really rally that much. There was a dump. Then people ask questions what happened. But then we still have 9 more years for it to come into reality. Yeah.
100%. Well, and it's not like, like you said, it's not going to be completely up only. When you zoom out, that chart's up and to the right for 10 years. There was little dips along the way. This could be a great example right here. We pumped to, 110K, came back down to 70, and we might, rip back up, set new all-time highs, and just keep chugging along through the rest of the year into 2026. And looking back, this will just be a very normal, correction as part of a larger, bull market cycle. How long that bull market goes is anybody's guess, but I'm all in on the let's do it. Let's get that 10-year super cycle going.
It's just funny how Bitcoin correlates to traditional finance when it comes to Q2 and Q3, right? Like Q2 started and you had the quick sell-offs at the end of March, and April it started to climb. And we'll see this should run. There are gonna be pullbacks, and maybe Trump doesn't do anything ridiculous, but this should probably run until September, and very, very, very nicely.
Well, let's here's a new game we can play this week. We'll do some more predictions at the end, but I got a game. This is going to be a longer term game. We're going to have to check back in later this summer to get the results of this, but we'll record it down. Is this year going to be the typical sell in May and go away and come back in Q3, or is this a buy in May and hope and pray cycle for us? What are your guys' predictions?
I asked myself the same question before we actually met today. Usually we have a quote saying that in May and go away, but we have a pretty shitty March, even February as well, a decent April. So I don't really think that market can tank anymore. There can be some movement, but then I think that we have a good summer coming ahead. Yeah, that's my opinion.
Yeah, I actually agree 100%. I think we won't see a big sell-off in May. I think it's only recovering now. The only things that will move the market will definitely be war, tariffs. Yeah. And it needs to be big wars, because you had the terrorist attack yesterday in the Kashmir Valley, but it didn't move the market, right? Because it's not saying they're not global players. Both are global players, but it's not an economic war. This is the thing that people don't understand. There are wars and then there are economic wars, and they're not the same thing, They're not the same thing. So no, I think we're pumping through May. Might go a bit sideways in June, but it won't go down. And then in July, we'll have a nice bump. And then, August, September, things will kind of, my prediction, slow down a bit. And then that should be the last, then the big bump. That's when you wake up and your coin 10x in October and November. And in January, everyone cries because the whole market has crashed. But I don't Yeah, I don't put BTC and altcoins in the same category this time. I don't. They're not the same anymore. It's changed.
Yeah, I agree, and I think there's a number of reasons for that. But and I hate to be boring here for people that are watching, but I'm going to agree with both of these guys. Not a lot of controversy on this. I think we probably see a little bit of a dip at the beginning of May, but recover quickly. And I don't think I agree with Roche. I don't think we're going to see insane pumps this summer. But I do think we see a steady trickle upwards throughout the summer, and then Q3, kind of mid Q3 is when we maybe get that real crazy pump going. So
yeah.
All right. Well, not going to be too crazy predictions. No arguments there to come back to, but we'll see this summer how we are on those predictions. But well, let's get into the TA side of things here. We had a little market analysis to get things kicked off. Roche put together a great subject today. Understanding how money flows in crypto. It's a very important lesson to learn, and this has changed this cycle, from previous cycles. So definitely interested to see what you've got for us here today on this, and interested to see if you're going to talk a bit about the M2 supply as well. That's something that a lot of people have been watching.
Yeah. So it starts with Bitcoin, as it always does. It is the gatekeeper of crypto. God, can you hear me? Oh, you're there. Yeah,
we got you.
So no, it starts with Bitcoin and of course Bitcoin dominance. If people don't know what Bitcoin dominance is, that is how dominant Bitcoin is in the market compared to all the other crypto that is available. So tokens, whatever, right? Yes, it starts with Bitcoin dominance, and the easiest thing is if Bitcoin's price goes up but the dominance falls, that generally, it's not always the case, but it's mostly the case that alts will then start to rise. Unfortunately, it will only go to the second largest cap. In this case, what would be Ethereum and Solana? What else would you put in there, Nathan, with those two?
The blue chips in general are going to run, although we've seen, again, a bit of a variant of what a blue chip is these days. But yeah, I think XRP is a good contender for that. Love them or hate them. But typically your large cap blue chip altcoins are the next to feed off that pump. Even blue chip meme coins, although meme coins have kind of acted independently. They're on their own. They have.
They're on their own mission. And so once those have dominated, and BTC, we call it BTCD for those who don't know. You can actually find it on TradingView. You search for BTC.D. So maybe we can put that in there. Anyone who likes this can definitely get the document. I think it's something that should be one of the fundamentals of trading, because you can do all the TA you want, but if you don't know how the money flows, it's pointless. So if BTC continues to go down, Bitcoin stays stable, then we go to our mid-cap alts or large cap alts. Let's say that, our large cap alts. These are I would say these projects run between 700 to 500 million market cap. So it's a whole range. And then you get, after that, your mid-cap, or 500 to 200, even to 100. And then you get to the creme de la creme, the shit coin, le shit coin, which everyone loves. Anything under 100 million. Well, there are even shitcoins that are worth 500 million, but I mean, in general, we don't talk about memes. They're not part of this conversation. But yeah, anything else, anything under 100 million, they move, and they normally move, man. They do 60, 70% in the day sometimes, but they also dip 90%. Do you know what tanked last week? Something tanked crazy. I can't remember what it was.
Mantra.
Do you know that?
Yeah, but I think Mantra, there was a project is quite a huge project on Binance, but then it tanked 90% about 2 weeks ago. It was a Luna recycle.
Did it recover yet?
No, it has not recovered yet.
Let's have a look here. Sorry, I know we are now going a bit off topic, but
no, you're good. I've got the chart here up of what you were just talking about. Can you guys see that there?
Yeah, I can see it. Yeah.
This is what Moshe has been talking about here. Yeah, fiat flows into Bitcoin. Bitcoin pumps as the dominance, and the Bitcoin dominance starts to roll down. Now, traditionally, it's flown into Ethereum. Now, we've seen a major change over this year with that. It's been Solana, XRP, some of the other top alts, and then, like we said, the random meme coins that have had, hundreds of billions of dollars in volume pumped through them. But then it flows into the large cap altcoins, and that's more of the alts that we were talking about. So it seems now the money flow is skipping Ethereum and going straight from Bitcoin into large cap alts and meme coins.
Yep.
And what we really haven't seen yet is this phase 4, where the money really starts to flow down into the those lower caps, small micro alts and pre-sales. That's I think what a lot of us have been waiting for is that that alt season market where we see launches that can do 100x at launch and projects that are doing the 10x in a month and those kind of things. What do you guys think? One thing that a lot of people have been talking about is changing out of this, what's been set the last few cycles where it flows very predictably into these, different tiers of from Bitcoin into altcoins. Now, obviously, memes are a whole thing. We don't even need to get into that. We've talked about that before. But what we have seen is instead of rolling from large caps to micro caps into these altcoins, smaller altcoins, we've seen kind of like niche bull markets where we had a mini AI bull market. We had a mini Bitcoin ecosystem. We had like BRCs and Bitcoin projects were hot for a little bit, and then we had some like the mini RWA season, and so it's more of these kind of niche down pocket bull runs. Do you see that continuing, or do you think we get a more traditional altcoin, large caps pumping, followed by the micro caps getting their time in the sun finally?
I think to answer that questions, we have to put a disclaimer here that the chart that we just show, the money flow we just show to the audience is what happened in the previous cycle. We see that happened in 2017 and 2018, what happened in 2021 as well, and at the end of 2021, early 2022. But it's very different from the previous cycle until now, is that in the previous cycle, we see that the whole crypto markets has only about a few hundreds to a few thousand coins. And it's not diverse as now. Nowadays, we have a lot of meme coins, a lot of coins that pop up every day. We have 10,000 coins that trade on a daily basis. So that's why it changed from a very altcoin seasons into a very niche altcoin pumps that Nathan just mentioned. So I believe that is the reasons, and it can be very different from previous cycles until now. What do you think, Roshan?
I agree with you. I think if we look at, it started with gaming in the previous cycle, where you see people continuing playing the games after the market have even crashed, right? And it's what I said earlier, once we make real products. So for instance, Tordess is a good example. AI agents are a good example, right? Because people want products. Then they will continue to hold this stuff because they know come the next cycle, it's like actually like it's turning into the traditional market, right? Like you just pay a price now when the market's down for a future that no one can see, right? That's what the whole stock market's all about, and I would say BTC, right? It's like you pay a lower price now than everyone's going to pay in the future, and it's the same thing with AI agents. A good example because they're not just GPT wrappers. It's not just a classic GPT LML, or, that just prompt you stuff. They actually do stuff. And yeah, I think we are going into utility way more in this. And that's probably why it's unpredictable. That's why no one knows what's going on. That's why because there are a few people that can give you good TA, but no one really knows what's going on. No one does. We know that BTC has an ETF. That's what we know. We know that Ethereum can go to zero. We know that as well. Bitcoin's not going to go to zero.
A small percentage probability that might happen. I still believe in Ethereum.
Yeah, I think that's a very big factor. When you're investing in the traditional markets, traditionally you're thinking, these aren't companies that are going anywhere, especially if you're investing in large caps and indices, things like that. Whereas with crypto, you don't have that assurance. Just because something's hot now, Mantra, you brought that up a minute ago, Mantle. That was one of the top RWA projects. They lost $6.5 billion in market cap in like an hour and a half.
90%.
Yeah, it went down 95% in like an hour and a half. So, it's a very different world. It's a scary world that you do need to really know what you're doing if you're gonna get into this game. It's not a spray and pray kind of a thing. But in terms of your comments on utility, I agree 100%. To bring these markets back to where it's something that is viable for the long term, we need to focus on the end. What areas or what sectors do you guys think have the biggest potential for real, actual utility and value on chain?
I believe that is RWA, real good access, and AI, and also part of DeFi as well. DeFi, of course, we have real utility, and that's where Tordess fits in. Anything that produce real revenue, produce real values to the users, and those one that will be sustainable, just provide a sustainable business model, and it will bring values to the users as well as token holders.
Apologies, guys. My son interrupted. Yes, I think RWA. I think it will definitely be DeFi would be back. DeFi. We need a good DeFi season, man. We need a good DeFi season. And I think AI. It's going to. Yeah, that will be your front runner this season.
Well, some good areas to be focusing on as we go back into another bull market here. I'm a big believer as well with RWA. RWAs is, that's a really wide sector. That can mean anything from real estate to tokenizing baseball cards and everything in between.
Yeah.
So that and paired with AI, I think when you mentioned DeFi, AI and DeFi are becoming more and more entwined every single day. So that those two kind of are going hand in hand there, 100%. One other thing we wanted to look at in terms of how money flows in crypto. Let me find that. Here we go. Is this here, the M2 money supply. This is a chart that, as you can see, extremely well correlated in this cycle here. For those of you that aren't familiar, M2 money supply is essentially the free-floating cash in the market. So think, sovereign wealth funds, giant institutions, major VCs and funds that all have cash that's not currently deployed. Now, normally, these guys aren't letting cash sit anywhere. This is cash that is sidelined, that they are waiting to bring back into risk-on assets like the stock market, like Bitcoin and crypto. And as you can see, the M2 money supply since the beginning of this year has been absolutely ripping to the upside. And Bitcoin is different. People debate on what the actual delay is. Is it 100 next whatever days? Is it 70 something? But the point is, unless we break this correlation, this is looking very, very good for Bitcoin to also follow this path and rip upward. There are some factors that are holding this back and why this money is all going sidelines. From your guys' opinion, why are people sidelining so much cash right now, and what needs to change for them to bring that back into crypto?
I get is a lot of unpredictabilities in the market right now. Since Trump took office, things are not very predictable anymore. A lot of change can happen. That's why it's hard for people to really have a convictions on anything right now. But that can change because we still believe that because digital gold utility over there, and even in the case of economic wars, whatever, Bitcoin has its value in that. And probably Nathan mentioned this as well. There's a lagging and there's a delay between M2 supply and its effects on Bitcoin. I'm not sure whether it's 100 days or 3 months or a few months, but I believe that M2 has been growing over the past few months since the beginning of this year. So that's very good news for Bitcoin and crypto market in general.
Yeah, I think, like I said, people first, yes, there's a lot of money on the side, but these guys are normally late. The big guys are already in. And these guys, they're not looking for the same profits, We're not talking about MicroStrategy because they don't count. They are for life, right? They Bitcoin maxis. They're not going to change it. But no one can tell me that BlackRock wasn't buying when the market was dumped, man. They were buying. So these guys want to come in when it breaks a new all-time high. This is why the all-time high always pumps up. People say it's retail. And yes, retail plays a massive role. There's also these big companies that want to see the price go from $111,000 to $115,000, right? That's a $4,000 jump. You put a couple of mil in that, you're making money, man. You're making money. So for them, it's like, okay, large institutions, they do this stuff for fun. It's not strategic. They just wait. They want to see, will Bitcoin break the all-time high again? Okay, time to buy it.
Yeah, I think
because it's going to reject it once or twice, maybe, right, in a week. And then the third time it's going to, boom, go through.
Yeah, I agree with both there. The biggest factor for these level of investors, these institutional money, these giant funds, sovereign wealth, nation states, etc. They're not looking for a 10x, right? Most of it's capital preservation. They're trying to beat inflation rates for the most part, right? So they're very conservative. Number one thing they're looking for is certainty and stability, and we don't have that right now. There's too many questions. There's wars going on. There's trade wars and tariff wars. There's instability with the Fed. No one knows if or when they're going to cut rates, if they're going to fire Jerome Powell. So there's just too much uncertainty in the markets right now. That's why people are sidelining a lot of it. And they are slow to act. They're going to be some of the later people to come in. And that would be my prediction in terms of when do we see this capital start flowing back into risk on assets? When do we see Bitcoin really chase hard and pump to these new all-time highs and beyond? It's going to be when we get these things figured out. If they can come to a peace agreement in the Ukraine, if we can get the trade war figured out with China and get past all this tariff news. When we get some positive news from the Fed where they're finally going dovish and they're going to start cutting rates, and eventually we see that QT. When QT happens, it's on like Donkey Kong. So yeah, we need some more stability.
We may not have all those positive sides, but I think we may have some.
Yeah. We need a couple of those. We need 2 out of 3, right? We'll take 2 out of 3.
Yeah.
We would have
It's around the corner. It's around the corner. Definitely.
Yep. Patience.
I think Fed will cut the rates first. That's definitely something I think that will happen. That will cause Trump probably to stop the tariff wars. The Americans are rich again. It's true. Fed cut rates, it's good for people in the short term, But yeah, Russia and Ukraine, we might get 3 out of 3. We might get 3 out of 3.
Hope so. Trust on that.
What no one really talks about is that we've been really poor since COVID.
Yeah,
everyone.
All the issues that we're seeing right now on the economic front and political scene around the world largely started during COVID. You can blame Trump, but we've been kicking this can down the road for my entire lifetime, for 4 decades. We printed 80% of all currency and circulating supply in a matter of like 18 months or something like that. Like these are not economic decisions that can go unnoticed, and the market's not going to reflect upon at some point. So, dealing with it now, it's not a fun pill to swallow, but it's a necessary one, unfortunately. So, hopefully, this gets figured out sooner rather than later.
That's why Bitcoin's so important,
100%.
It is,
and we're seeing that right now. As the dollar continues to decline, Bitcoin is ripping, which is what it's designed to do.
I mean, we all live in a place where property, doubled in 2 years, doubled. And these are not renting prices, these are buying prices, right? So
land in Bitcoin,
we know that,
yeah,
we know what's going on.
Have that common theme of they ain't making any more of it.
That's exactly. Altcoins are like altcoins are like a girlfriend or side chick, and Bitcoin's your wife. You know which one which one you're going for. You know which one. The altcoins make you happy short term. They're fun. They're dangerous.
You need both in life.
But they're going to rug you in the end.
They're going to rug you, bro. But BTC always stays faithful and true to you. It's true. It's really true.
Speaking about Bitcoin, we got your chart back up here. Let's make some more predictions to wrap up the video here today. Bitcoin currently sitting at 92,475, making a run up to 92,500 here. What are our predictions for the next week here? Actually, we'll go 2 weeks out. I will be in Dubai for Token next week, so I will not be available to record this here. But so we'll go 2 weeks out. Where do we think Bitcoin? Let's say, what should we do? Do we want to do high and low again, or do we want to do what's the high and where will we be sitting?
Let's do high and low. It's safer. I think it's.
Let's go high and low.
Yeah, I think there will be some movement. There will be up and downs. Okay. We won't see Bitcoin jump over 100,000.
Well, I went last time, so I guess I got to go first this time. So I think.
Sure.
Yes, let's go, Nathan.
I think in terms of the pullback, I think I'm gonna say the low is around. Let's go just under 90K. So we'll go like 89,800 for the low on the pullback. Okay. And then for a high 2 weeks from now, I'm gonna say 98,500.
Okay, 98,500, huh?
98,500 for 2 weeks out.
That's a biggie. What happened here? 1 second.
That would be May 8th, Thursday, May 8th. I'm saying the high between now and then is 98,500. The low will be 89,800.
Sorry, man, I'm just busy. So 98,500. Okay. And your low was 89,800, right?
89,800.
Okay. Dot, yours?
I hate to be boring, but I was about to say the same figures. No kidding. No, but I won't be able to go down to 500. It's going to be probably around, the low will be about 88,000, I guess. 88 until 97.
What did you say? 80?
88.
87?
No,
88. Okay.
Yeah, 88 until 97.
And your high at 97?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
I'd love for Bitcoin to go about 100,000, but I don't think it can do so within 2 weeks time frame. Probably at the end of May, hopefully.
Okay. So I think the high will be in 2 weeks. Yeah, I'm going to do 101. That'll be my high. I think we're breaking 100K. But I'm also thinking that we might just hit a low of that around 85K.
85K.
I think we'll first hit the high before we hit the low. Yeah, those are mine.
High first. Okay.
Yeah, it looks very similar to last week again.
A little
2 weeks ago.
pullback, rip over 100K, then another pullback to 85. All right.
I think it will first rip the high and then come back down.
All right. There we got it.
This weekend it will come crazy again, you know?
Well, next
It
week,
will.
next
It
week
always-
we've got Token, and Token infamously always has a dump every time they have a Token conference. So
Okay.
let's see if we can break
Also
that
have
streak.
Stay coming up. Yeah, guys, I hope you have a lovely public holiday next week.
In Vietnam.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Happy 50th anniversary of Reunification Day to all our Vietnamese fans out there for Tordess or for Crypto Paradise. Enjoy a nice 5-day holiday. Unfortunately, I'm gonna miss all of it. I'll be in Token for the whole thing, so gonna miss out on the celebrations. But I've been enjoying all the traffic jams. Every night they close most District 1 down for about starting at like 5 o'clock till 9 o'clock. But it looks pretty awesome. They're gonna have all kind of military parades. They've got flyovers, helicopters, and jets. I got woken up the other day by 4, I think it was F-22s or F-16s buzzing.
And now it's a
apartment
Super
complex.
30, I think.
Yeah, pretty cool. So, but all right.
Awesome.
Thanks again, as always, gents, for joining here. Another great edition of TA with Tordess. Appreciate your time, and looking forward to hopefully 2 weeks from now when we get back, we'll have some more announcements around the upcoming IDO for Tordess.
Sure. Hopefully that we see a green May, bullish May. That the launch could be awesome.
Fantastic. Looking forward to it. All right, gents. The Bitcoin beacon. Which side? Here we go. This side. The Bitcoin beacon is lit. Let's see those pumps. All right.
Let's go.
Take it easy, guys. Thanks for
Cheers,
watching.
guys.
Bye.
Cheers.
Cheers.